Welcome back to the Black Bonspiel. I hope you're all as excited as I am for the Briar finals today, but I must admit to some disappointment that Wally McCrimmon won't be in it. When we left our friend Wally, he had just finished explaining his Faustian bargain to his third and second, pipe-fitting and malleable. They all had agreed not to tell his Catholic first about it. Also, Wally had dreamed up some sort of scheme involving the town's clockmaker, who was also named Charlie Brown. Without further ado, let's dive right in. The Black Bonspiel of Wally McCrimmon, Chapter 5. Evidently Satan dealt in both cold and heat, for it had to be him behind this blizzard weather persisting for 10 days. Another week of it, and it would be tit-scald time on the ranches to the west of Shelby. With sun reflecting from deeply snow-covered pastures, the herds could no longer graze freely and must be gathered and fed green feed bundles in one area. For the ranchers, that meant hauling and spreading straw over the ground to block the reflecting rays that caused utter damage. For the well-to-do flat booters to the east, after a fine 30-bushel crop year, it was fly south with the ducks and honkers time, all the way to California and Arizona. But only if they were not devout curlers, of course. Many of Shelby's business owners would migrate south as well to bowl, play golf, and shuffleboard. Pale, bloodless sports that couldn't hold a candle to curling. Over at the Jock McNair rink, Andy Winkup had the sheets in perfect shape, so Willie and his men, as they practiced, had no trouble at all with their knockouts, in-turns, or out-turns against the McConkey, the Peterson, and the Kalichuk rinks. "We're really hot," Pipe Fitting said to Willie after they'd wiped out all three. "We're gonna whip 'em." "Watch it, Pipe Fitting. You say anything positive, it generally backfires on you." "I've heard you say that before, Willie, a lot of times. Do all Presbyterians say that?" "Possibly." "And Baptists?" "You ought to know, Pipe Fitting. Aren't you one?" "Once upon a time." "Okay, let me put it different. Come Sunday night, the devil's gonna fry the ass off of us." "That's better. Also, I'm getting a wee bit of helping hand from Clock." "Him? He don't know bugger all about curling." "True, but he's a craftsman who knows how to handle silver." "What the hell has that got to do?" "A great deal. Especially important with what we're facing Sunday night." "How is it?" "Let's just leave it lie, Pipe Fitting. For now. Probably won't work for us anyway." "Then why'd you—" "Oh, I get it. Always be pessimistic so everything won't be frizz to rat shit when the time comes." "Exactly. 22 years you sure taught me a lot besides curling, Willie." The greater part of his working day at watch repairs and jewelry, Clock was Shelby's Cyclops, with his lens strapped to the middle of his forehead. He had taken it off for his visit down the street. "All right, Willie. I'm way behind on my watch repairs, and this has to be important. What is it?" "I'll need you bad, Clock." Willie laid one of his boot tacks on the counter. "Copper?" "I can see that. So what?" "I'll need you to make me one similar, but out of silver." "Well, that's easy enough. Let me have it. I'll take it back to the shop and silver plate it for you." "Now look, Clock, you must get it right. Exactly right. I want silver, solid silver, sterling silver. It must not be plated, sterling silver, and some bigger." Okay. I'll do it for you, beginning of the week." "Beginning of the week's no good to me. It's no good at all. I must have it tomorrow morning." "Look, I'm a busy man like you are. I got the husband wedding, folks coming in buying china, cut glass, silver. I got way behind on my watch repairing." "Believe me, Clock, it's important." All right. "Tomorrow by 9 o'clock." Clock picked up the copper tack. "You said bigger? How much bigger?" "About twice as long," Willie said. and needle sharp. Okay, he started out. Oh, Willie called after him. I think you better make it 2 of them. Clock turned back to him. You sure? Aye. Positive? Willie nodded. Not half a dozen? What's this all about, Willie? You doing boots for royalty now? In a way, Clock. One of them, a prince. He thought it best not to add, of darkness. Sterling, cost you a royal bundle, Willie. When Clock had left, Willie poured himself coffee. For the umpteenth time he began to look over the contract. He lifted his cup and took a swallow. Just coffee. He got up, poured it back into the coffee pot. From a drawer under the counter he took himself out a 40-ouncer of scotch and poured himself a triple. As he did, the doorbell warned. He managed to get the scotch bottle back in the drawer just in time. It was Reverend Pringle. Sorry, Willie. Meant to drop this into you sooner. Your receipt. The new church. You'll need it when you do your returns. Charitable donation. Thank you, Reverend. Nice cup of coffee? Yes, that would be nice. He reached for the cup in Willie's hand. Black. Not this one, Willie said. It's loaded with cream and sugar. I'll pour you one. Grab a chair. He headed for the heater. Glad you showed up. I have something to confess to you and to give to you. Yes? Willie handed Pringle his coffee and sat down. The bell tinkled. Annie Brown this time. Mrs. Brown, you do pick inconvenient times to drop in my shop. Is this visit for something in the line of shoe repair? It is not. Harness? No. I just happened to see Mr. Pringle come in, and I have further to report to him on the corruption of our children in our schools. Reverend Pringle shrank lower in his seat. Willie got up and stepped toward her. Some other time, Miss Brown. With one hand he took her by the elbow while his other held the cup of whiskey. Annie Brown stood her ground. I must talk to him. I want to make myself clear, Mrs. Brown. As they say in the old country, the back of your head would be a treat. She did not get the message. She found Scottish, like Chaucerian English, hard to understand. Mr. Pringle, Mrs. Brown, this is a serious matter, she said. As is mine. Get the hell out of my shop right now. He propelled her towards the door, but in doing so spilled most of his cup's whiskey contents over her. Accidentally, just possibly. The alcoholic perfume would linger long in her hair, and would take some explaining to Crosscut when she got home. It did speed up her exit considerably. Willie locked the door behind her and returned to a stunned Reverend Pringle. Didn't you carry that too far, Willie? Perhaps. Willie pulled out the drawer under the counter, brought out the whiskey bottle for a refill. So it wasn't coffee you sluiced her with? No. He held the bottle out to Pringle. Wee drop? Oh, no. Well, yes. After that, I can use an antidote. Make it light. Now, what is this private matter you wish to discuss with me? You said it was serious? Mortally? He handed Pringle his cup. There's to be a curling match. You do take your curling to be mortally serious. Is this some kind of special match? Aye, it is. It's a very special one. It's... His eye caught Annie Brown's furious face pressed up against the shop window. He got up, pulled down the blind, and came back to Pringle. I would appreciate if you say not a word to anyone about what I'm about to tell you. Not a soul. I promise. I knew you would. Wally took a long drink. Pringle took one too. He grimaced slightly as he swallowed. Let's have it. Not easy for me. I don't know just how to begin. You will remember a wee while back we had a conversation the day you asked me to put down for $20 for your new Methodist church. United Church. Yes. This match is to be against the gentleman who came into my shop that day. just before you did. He brought with him his curling boots for me to repair. We spoke of him at great length. Wait a minute, Willie. You're not telling me you aren't trying to. Simply put, Reverend, my rink curls Sunday night against Satan and his rink from hell. Have you gone out of your mind? No, I made a bargain with him. Look, Willie, if you want to break the Sabbath curling bylaw, if some curling match is that important to you, there's no need to cook up a wild and ridiculous excuse like that. 'Tis not. God's truth. I have a written contract, signed, sealed, and delivered by him. I can show it to you. Pringle is laughing now. Don't bother, Willie. Curl your match, whomever is against. Just shove it ahead or back one day. I would appreciate it very much if you said not a word to anybody about what I've just told you. I've already promised you I wouldn't. I'm a promise keeper. Willie went over to the cash register on the corner of his counter. Tell me, how's the collection for your new church coming along? Fine, just fine. The cash register dinged. Willie took out an envelope and handed it to Pringle. I've been thinking it over. You may put me down for a wee bit more. It's in that envelope. Now that's very, and I suggest you drop in on Malleable and Pipe-Fitting Brown. I already have. Hit them again. Tell them you've just seen me and I've upped my contribution. Tell them to, considering what's at stake tomorrow night, it can do no harm. I think you'll find them in a cooperative mood. Good gracious! Pringle had taken the bills out of the envelope. $100? That's a lot of little enough, Reverend. Had you attended the old country church I did as a lad, you would think so too. You tell Malleable and Pipe Fitting I said for them to up their ante. I guarantee you they will. Bless you, Willie. I appreciate your generosity. Good luck to you, Bible Bill. Oh, sorry, Reverend. Wee slip of the tongue. You're not the first to call me that, Willie. Most of them behind my back. Everyone in Shelby has a nickname I've noticed. Aye. From now on I think I'll call you Clutie. No, Dr. Faust. All right with me, whoever he was. A German fellow. Centuries ago he sold his soul to the devil for power and knowledge. So he hadn't been the first to put his soul on the line for reward from the devil. Probably not the last, either. After Pringle had left, he returned to work on Clutie's curling boots. Just before closing time, he pared off the last soul-finishing strap, closed up shop, and headed home. Neither Mary nor supper would be waiting for him there. 10 years of lonely nights without her beside him ever since the breast cancer had taken her from him. No sons or daughters who might have helped him mourn. Memory of their life years together had softened the lost ache some. How he had looked forward to reunion with her in paradise. Soon after her death he'd almost hurried it up with the 12-gauge between his knees and the barrel under his chin, until at the last minute he'd realized that suicide would take him down and away from her forever. What if he lost the match against the devil? He'd lose his soul to spend his afterlife in the flames of hell and never rejoin dear Mary in heaven above. He set the living room fireplace and lit it. Forget supper for now. He sat down in the easy chair, opened the worn, Morocco-bound books in his lap, the collected gems of Robbie Burns. It was a book he returned to again and again, even more often than to the King James Version. For comfort, Robbie had the Bible beat a mile, and he really needed him now that he'd made this contract with old Clutie. You agree with me it was a stupid thing to do, Robbie? Of course you do. You lost your dear Highland Mary just after you'd plighted troth with her, and she'd visited her family to prepare for the marriage that was cancelled by death. Pale, pale now, these rosy lips I oft ha' kissed so fondly, and close for aye the sparkling glance that dwelt on me so kindly, and mouldering now in silent dust that heart that loved me dearly, but still within my bosom core shall live my Highland Mary. You mourn for both of us, Robbie. I was some luckier, for I almost 20 years with my Mary beside me. My Mary from my soul was torn, O Mary, deep departed shade, where is thy place of blissful rest? Seest thou thy lover lowly laid? Hearest thou the groans that rend his breast? No doubt at all where his beloved Mary's place of blissful rest was, and how he hoped that she could hear the groans that were rending his breast. He closed the book, leaned back in his chair, closed his eyes. Oh, Mary, dear Mary, my first and only love, I'm sorry I made this jeopardy bargain with Clootie. Let's see if we can call it off. Clootie, come in, Clootie. Can you hear me, Clootie? He waited. No response. The fireplace gulped, belched smoke. Evidently, Clootie sometimes took the St. Nicholas route. It must be he who took those lumps of coal in naughty children's Christmas stockings. Clootie, I'm calling off our match. Fine with me, Willie. So I can keep my... No, you simply end all chance of doing that. You have signed a binding contract. You break it, I win for sure. It was not witnessed. Oh, Willie, read it again. I witnessed you, you witnessed me. You forfeit, you lose. You know that as well as I do. Aye, Willie sighed. I was afraid of that. Nice try all the same. Looking forward to our Sabbath match. The fireplace sucked lingering smoke, and Clootie back and out. Good night, Clootie. Good night, Mary. Perhaps forever. So that concludes Chapter 5 of The Black Bonspiel of Willie McCrimmon. Just a couple of notes on the two Robbie Burns poems at the end there. Robbie Burns was writing about a woman known as Highland Mary, who he had an affair with. Robbie Burns was well known for having affairs with many women, but Highland Mary was one of these women who he has since enshrined in his poetry for all time. Also, the suggestion that Willie has this kind of night of buyer's remorse at putting his soul on the line with the devil seems to be W.O. Mitchell's attempt at suggesting that Willie really did have something on the line here, that he actually has a soul that's thinking about Mary and will go to eternal heaven. Whether that's W.O. Mitchell thinking that, or whether that's Willie McCrimmon thinking that, I don't think we'll ever know. Stay tuned for tomorrow, when we will have Willie preparing his rank for the last battle with Satan. Till then, hopefully you'll enjoy the Briar this evening, and we'll see you soon.